Hello friends, welcome to my channel. In this video we will quickly go through the latest judgment delivered by the International Court of Justice in Nicaragua versus Colombia case. This is going to be a highly informative video. So, before moving further, just do two things. First, be prepared to make notes out of this lecture. And second, subscribe to my channel for more such related content. Done? Thanks. So, on the 13th of July 2023, the ICJ delivered its judgment in the case concerning question of the delimitation of the Continental Shelf between Nicaragua and Colombia beyond 200 nautical miles from the Nicaraguan coast. Now let's look at the procedural history of the case. After the ICJ's judgment of 2012 in territorial and maritime dispute, Nicaragua vs. Colombia, Nicaragua filed an application on the 16th of September 2013, requesting the court to determine maritime boundaries in areas of the continental shelf beyond the boundaries determined in the 2012 judgment. Through its order of the 4th of October 2022, the court stated that, before proceeding to any consideration of technical and scientific questions concerning the present delimitation, certain questions of law have to be decided. Thus, it posed two questions to the parties. Before moving further, let us quickly see the location of Nicaragua and Colombia. You can pause this video to have a good understanding of the geography of the region. Issues before the court. The first question raised by the ICJ was, under customary international law, may a state's entitlement to a continental shelf beyond 200 nautical miles from the baselines from which the breadth of its territorial sea is measured extend within 200 nautical miles from the baselines of another state? Citing its 2009 judgment in Romania versus Ukraine, the court said that, determining whether there is any area of overlap between the entitlements of two states, each founded on a distinct legal title, is the first step in any maritime delimitation, because the task of delimitation consists in resolving the overlapping claims by drawing a line of separation of the maritime areas concerned. The court found that the first question has a preliminary character, since it must be answered to ascertain whether the court may proceed to the delimitation requested by Nicaragua, and ultimately whether it is necessary to consider the scientific and technical questions that would arise for such delimitation. Court asked the parties to base their arguments on customary international law, which applies to the present case because, unlike Nicaragua, Colombia is not a party to UNCLOS. Notably, customary international law can be primarily ascertained from the actual practice and opinio juris of states. In this regard, multilateral conventions become relevant in recording and defining rules deriving from custom or developing them. Recalling its previous judgments, the court found that Article 56 of UNCLOS reflects customary rules on rights and duties in the exclusive economic zone, and the definition of the continental shelf in Article 76, paragraph 1 of UNCLOS forms part of customary international law. Further, the contents of Article 76 of UNCLOS suggest that the states participating in the negotiations had an assumption that the extended continental shelf would only extend into maritime areas that would otherwise be located in the area. The court notes that, in practice, the vast majority of states parties to the convention that have made submissions to the Commission on the limits of the continental shelf have chosen not to assert therein outer limits of their extended continental shelf within 200 nautical miles of the baselines of another state. Considering other related instances in this regard, the court found such practices to be widespread, uniform, and continuous over a long period of time, ultimately as an indicative of opinio juris, a constitutive element of customary international law. Therefore, the court concludes that, under customary international law, a state's entitlement to a continental shelf beyond 200 nautical miles from the baselines from which the breadth of its territorial sea is measured may not extend within 200 nautical miles from the baselines of another state. Now, let us move to the second question, which states that, what are the criteria under customary international law for the determination of the limit of the continental shelf beyond 200 nautical miles from the baselines from which the breadth of the territorial sea is measured? And in this regard, Do paragraphs 2 to 6 of Article 76 of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea reflect customary international law? The court took note of its response to the first question and concluded that even if a state can demonstrate that it is entitled to an extended continental shelf, such entitlement may not extend within 200 nautical miles from the baselines of another state. Therefore, regardless of the criteria that determine the outer limit of the extended continental shelf to which a state is entitled, its extended continental shelf cannot overlap with the area of the continental shelf within 200 nautical miles from the baselines of another state. Thus, providing an answer to the second question was not necessary.